get in, attach, evade, or overcome, cause the disease. Causing a disease. Just the mere presence of microbe in your body does not cause disease. It can cause an infection, presence of it there, our immune system, the inflammatory response, boom, 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 infection. A disease is when the infection leads to damage, cellular, tissue, organ damage, maybe even ultimately death. Microbes, bacteria specifically, have many weapons at their disposal when it comes to causing disease. Many abilities, virulence factors at their disposal. Previous slide in the previous, or the last slide in the previous lecture, talked about enzymes and toxins causing disease. The enzymes and toxins lead to damage. We find that the enzymes and toxins come in a couple of forms. Extracellular enzymes, these are enzymes, proteins that are made within the bacterial cell to be pumped out into the environment to do damage to host cells. Great example you see here on a blood agar plate. Enzymes that lyse red blood cells. Yeah, because remember I told you at the cellular level, your cells are nothing more than buffets. So by having an enzyme that lyses red blood cells, these bacteria can burst open the cells and get at the water and the nutrients that were present within said cell. Others can be bacterial toxins. Okay, bacterial toxins are targeted. Specific cells, specific things, metabolic pathways in those same cells. Exotoxins are this targeted approach, this targeted weapon. They are produced by the bacterial cell. The exotoxin is then pumped out by the same bacterial cell. The exotoxins will react with specific cell targets. They will go, they will somehow get in, and then they will interfere. They will alter metabolic functions. A bit vague here because there's multiple types of toxins, and I don't want to get all into them right now. We'll talk more about those when we get to the disease chapters. Then you have the endotoxins. Exo means without, toxins that are made to be pumped out, and then endotoxins are things that are part of the cell, within the cell. Endo means within the cell. It's a bit of a misnomer because an endotoxin is a part of the cell. Part of the cell breaks off. One of the big endotoxins that we have to keep an eye out for is lipopolysaccharide. That same polysaccharide, that same, thing that we talked about in the outer membrane of gram-negative cells. What we see here on these glycolipids that get shed, get spread, part of it breaks off and then gets released, is that these endotoxins, this lipopolysaccharide, binds to any and all receptors it comes into contact with. It will start triggering weird reactions by surrounding cells. These weird reactions lead to an over-response by the immune system. The immune system may actually start to attack self. Remember, I talked a couple of lectures ago when we were talking filtration in Chapter 9. The little vials of stuff you may get injected with the medications. It will say endotoxin tested. They're testing for the presence or absence of lipopolysaccharide. Other endotoxins can be M proteins that are from Staphylococcus aureus and things like that. We'll talk more about those in the disease chapters. So when you look at exotoxins versus endotoxins, exotoxins are targeted, specific small proteins or large molecules, multi-part molecules that are unstable. Okay, heat them up, they will fall apart very quickly. Since they're multi-part, different parts have different roles. You will see that some parts are for attachment and uptake. Other parts of the exotoxin are actually what interact with our enzymes, interact with our metabolic functions. The endotoxins, well, this is broad. This is every cell in your body can be affected by these if it gets carried around in the bloodstream. Can be toxic in high doses, whereas exotoxins, minute doses, can be deadly, can be damaging if not deadly. Endotoxins, you're going to see one of the signs and symptoms of these is going to be fever, inflammation, because they're systemic. Different systems are going to be affected in different ways. Endotoxins are very stable. Okay. Where the exotoxins can be denatured with a little bit of heat, a little bit of thermal energy. Endotoxins, not so much. So when we look at the damage, inducing damage in the host, the presence means it's just an infection. The different species within the infection are going to be releasing endotoxins, exotoxins, exoenzymes, which are going to lead to cell damage, cell death, tissue damage. There's the disease.